everybody, I'm Clifford Simba, the Pop Song Professor, and welcome to my channel where we make song lyrics explained. Today we're talking about the long-awaited collaboration between Hopsin and NF, and it's a song called Lost. And this song is especially interesting because, NF is very overt about his faith and the things that he believes. He's a Christian and he's, a very spiritual person. Hopsin actually is a little bit of a counterpoint to that because I think it was back in 2012 he decided, all right, I'm a Christian, and he put it out there and it was a big deal for him. But then in 2014, 2015, he put out his song Ill Hopsin 7, where he basically broke down why he felt betrayed by God for not giving him more proof that God existed, and it made it hard for him to believe. And why don't you just make it easier and erase all doubt and let's just go with that? And there's more to the story, of course, but that's the gist of it. And it makes it even more interesting that NF and Hopsin are collabing on a song where they actually make some overt references to Christianity. If you watch the music video, you see NF trudging up this snow-covered mountain with the pack of inflated black balloons that he's been carrying around in a few music videos that seem to represent his problems, right? Depression, mental illness, struggling with things, self-doubt, negative thoughts, everything you can think of, right? Seems to be, and maybe even just general sins. Those seem to be the weight that's keeping him down, which is ironic because they're balloons. And I think that's because it's supposed to be ironic because balloons are supposed to be a party, happy thing. And so his weights are actually things that are disguising as something good maybe, and really they're just really terrible. So he trudges up the mountain and he sees these balloons sticking up out of the snow. He unburies what's there and it's Hopsin, and then he starts rapping. They trudge back down the mountain and they find this snow-covered field full of more balloons sticking up out of the ground, suggesting that there are people there who have been covered by an avalanche or something. And the mountain itself seems to be representative of, life struggles or the things that you have to overcome in life, or just living life in general. So that's the narrative story, but let's take a look at the intended lyrical story. And we're gonna listen to pre-chorus 1. But I manifested this, NF says. Falling's how you grow and you learn your lessons, kids. Take the worst and try to make the best of it, because when you fail, just know it's a test, and if you can learn to pick yourself back up again and train your brain to not be such a pessimist, it's okay to make mistakes, just don't forget that there's a high road, but I skip the exit when I'm lost. Then we get into the chorus where he just says, when I'm lost, when I'm lost, when I'm lost. Now Hopsin has his own version of the pre-chorus where he says, yeah, I manifested this. Do not treat me like some adolescent kid. I'm praying to the Lord with the book of James, hoping he gonna add my testament. This dark cloud, that's my residence. Demons knocking, I don't have to let them in. I done made mistakes day to day. You probably can't relate. I just ain't the same when I'm lost. NF finishes up for him. There's a couple of lines I want you to pay attention to. This dark cloud, that's my residence. It's a very common metaphor for depression or just heavy thoughts. And then up in NF's, we've got a couple of lines like, falling's how you grow and learn your lesson, kids. So he's talking about, trying to do better and be better, but he ends on this, so it's okay to make mistakes, just don't forget that there's a high road. You can do better, but I skip the exit when I'm lost. This whole song is about feeling lost sometimes and screwing up when you do feel that way. And I'm not gonna read the entire sets of verses, but there are several lines that are really important that get the message across. In NF's verse, he says, my mistakes are like a screaming parrot, just repeating lyrics, I can barely bear it when I'm lost. Road is narrow, I'm looking down it like a gun's barrel. Aren't we all searching for the serum that could help us breathe and leave our state of peril? And you start to see this really strong idea. The song isn't just about making mistakes and feeling lost. It's that knowledge that you make mistakes and are prone to making mistakes weighs on you, or it's like a loud, obnoxious parrot, which is an interesting metaphor to choose, but it's shooting the lyrics back at him, and what he's talking about there, I think, is that these mistakes do inspire his songs. Like this parrot just keeps telling me all the mistakes I made. Oh, hey, that would actually make a nice lyric and a nice song. And then he turns around and, makes a rap out of it. But something don't add up. I don't want to be over dramatic, but look at the data. It's obvious that humans are fragile. We tend to get mad at the ones that call us out, but the fact is we need someone that'll be honest when we fly off the handle. And this is a theme that we hear from NF quite a bit. I think a lot of times he's referring to his wife, who seems to be the person who grounds him a little bit and helps him to understand when he's making a mistake or saying something stupid or getting too angry or coming off in the wrong way. And I think that's kind of what he's talking about here, like surrounding yourself with people who will help you know when you have made a mistake, but then having the humility to be able to listen to them and not get defensive about it. He says, I never could settle. I like to keep my foot on the pedal. Yeah, I'd love to pack arenas and all, but what I really want to do is learn to handle my thoughts, put the reins on them, show them I'm the one that's the boss and pull them back when they get out of hand. I'm breaking their jaws. I'm taking the flaws that told me I could never evolve. Then pull a Bane on them, ask them, oh, you think you're in charge? Which is a reference to the third, well, not the third Batman movie, but like the third in the Christopher Nolan series of Batman movies. The Batman movies that really count. And what NF is saying is that while yes, he wants to be successful, he recognizes that part of his success come from these thoughts and his struggle with them, and it inspires him to write something. But it sounds to me like he's saying he would trade that whole ecosystem for just being able to have a rein on his thoughts and be able to, like Bane did to that one smarmy, businessman in the third Batman movie, say, oh, you think you're in charge. Except, of course, Bane said it a lot cooler than that. Well, let's jump right into Hopsin. He says, I used to be joyful and skip so merrily. And that's kind of nursery rhyme in the rhythm and the flow of it, which is cool because he's talking about a time when everything was so simple and happy. I used to be joyful and skip so merrily, do, right? And that was a time when that kind of stuff made sense. Naive, happy, innocent like a child, right? But now I'm too cautious and tiptoe carefully. And he hits you back with that rhyme that finishes the thought, but takes it in a way more serious direction. That's really cool. My mind left and it's nowhere to be found. Am I a big old parody? Cause it's no fair to me. And now I'm at the point where I'm spending $1,000 a week on hypnotherapy. The guy can rhyme. Like, this is really good stuff. But he's just saying like, hey, things used to be happy and now they're not happy. What happened? He actually released a vlog recently where he talked about this, talked about being in a dark place, having gone through a lot of depression, and hopefully kind of being able to start coming out the other side or be able to approach things in a better way. He spends a lot of time in his verse talking about people around him who don't really care about him or would even like to see him fail. Maybe they're hungry for some of his success and they want to kind of clear him out of the way. And he's not really down with that. Surprise, surprise. So he spends a good few lines talking about like, hey, if you don't actually love me, then you don't get to be part of the crew. And here's a really good example of that. The only thing I feel is pain and vengeance, so I'm gonna act out like a raging misfit, and every verse I lay gun stays sadistic. You wanna hate me? Good, great, terrific, which is such a, you would never expect a phrasing like that in a rap verse, but it totally works. You'll never see the day when my anger's dismissed. You better go and change your wish list, cause, and they move into the pre-chorus. But what's interesting about this transition, change your wish list, cause, yeah, or cause I, yeah, manifested this. I made it happen to myself. He's taking a surprising amount of responsibility for how difficult his life is at this moment. And that's not something that you hear from really anybody. Usually everybody, it's like somebody else's fault. Somebody made my life suck. It's not me. And they don't want to deal with it. But he jumps right into it and he's like, yeah, I manifested this. He's like, don't kid with me. And he even says, do not treat me like some adolescent kid. This dark cloud, that's my residence. And then he realizes and he like matures in a second. He says, demons knocking, I don't have to let them in. But he's kind of admitting, he's implying that he has in the past and that is his fault, right? Which is an interesting line you have to walk when you're talking about mental illness. So he's not necessarily talking just about mental illness, but just some of the struggles he's had in life, he's admitting are, caused by things that he's done. And guys, that makes what he's talking about super interesting, super nuanced, and just very, very discussion worthy. That's the basic idea of Lost. It's two rappers who struggle with some really heavy thoughts, who blame themselves for making mistakes that have made their life worse. Just kind of admitting that and saying, hey, when I'm feeling lost, it's a lot easier to make mistakes. I really don't want to feel lost. And not only that, it's also a cool song. It's got a really great beat and it's a lot of fun and it's a pretty dope music video. If you like rapping and you'd like to hear me making a fool of myself trying to rap, I'm gonna go ahead and link to the Obsessed podcast in the description. The very first episode, I tried to uncover why people were obsessed with rapping, and to do that, I had to write 2 raps myself, and it was embarrassing and humiliating, but I did it. And so if you like rapping and you like watching me make a fool of myself, which you're watching this channel, so that basically describes you, right? Anyway, go check that out. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching.